Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, enemies and friends, welcome to the show that never ends. You are tuned into On the Reel, and this is a special all Star Wars edition. I'm your host, Steve Johnson, and joining me today is none other than the last best hope for the Resistance,
What up,
Mr. Woods. All right, so here's the thing. This is the spoilers discussion. We are gonna get serious about this thing, and if you have not seen the movie yet, turn this off right now.
That's a good warning.
Yeah,
that works. Okay.
So this is it, man. We still are, and we wanted to give people time to see the movie. So we sort of waited until today to do this. You can see our non-spoilers review if you haven't checked that out yet.
Right.
But now is the time for spoiler talk.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take care of a few things. Mr. Woods, why don't you tell them a little bit about what you thought about it?
Where's best to start this in terms of because there's a lot to digest here.
Here's the thing:
Star Wars: The Last Jedi, episode 8.
Yes, episode 8. Just tell them your score and why you gave it that score, and then we're going to break it down plot point by plot point, and then we'll get into some of our criticisms and then sort of the wider public criticisms,
right?
And then we will get into sort of a metaphysical conversation that I want to have about the whole Star Wars franchise.
We're going to go metaphysical.
We're going metaphysical on them.
Is there going to be any force usage in this situation?
Look. If there's any force left.
Right. So
that's a little precursor.
Right. So initially, I gave it a soft 8.
Soft 8.
A soft 8, yes. And so I had to really think about this because there's things that this movie does well, or that I appreciate, because they're trying to change the narrative in the public conscious of what we were used to in these Star Wars films and what we are to expect. And so that's a difficult thing to do when your energy is so concentrated, at least thematically, on Han, Luke, and Leia's story, as well as Darth Vader and all the other major players that's been throughout the Star Wars series. But at the same time, it bothers me, and why I gave it a soft 8 is because the film it's akin to, or at least it's trying to follow up similar, or how I relate it to, in my personal opinion, Empire Strikes Back, right? I go as far as back as that in terms of that second film, just how the Force Awakens was similar to A New Hope, right? In terms of these directions, but I can't say it does it better. And for the most part, I mean, I don't want to say worse, but it just doesn't. It leaves me hanging in some instances. So to kind of get into it, what I say is still a soft 8. I don't do the whole 7.8 or 7.9, but I feel like I should. But I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at 8, and I just have to keep it at a soft 8.
Why? So I want to understand the idea of why feeling like you should. Is it because of your allegiance to the Jedi, or is it like what? Why?
Like,
why does it deserve
why do I
a
have
higher
that
score?
Well, why do, or rather, your question would be, why do I feel like I should bring it down a notch or two?
Right.
Okay, so there is, in some of the plot points of the story, it makes sense, but the execution, I guess I have a problem with, right?
Right.
And so I'm letting everyone know now, I'll keep using Empire Strikes Back specifically.
Is that because it was your favorite Star Wars movie?
Well, not only that it was my favorite, so what? Hey, that's my opinion. But because this film it's very similar to Empire Strikes Back. Right?
By the way, I just want to give a shout out to LeVar. He's not here because he hasn't seen it yet, but he will be on the next
yes.
Our next On the Reel official show. But this is all about Star Wars, and for the people that
he should have he should have been here, but he's a busy man, he's a working man. So Yes, so shout out to LeVar. So the reason why I bring it back to Empire Strikes Back specifically is because the film, if you look closely at what The Last Jedi was doing, and the reason when you had asked me from the onset, when we did the non-spoilers review, you said, hey, is this a Star Wars film? Like, what are your thoughts? How do you feel? I said, yes, this is a Star Wars film, but people are going to be a little bothered because there's things that they try to they took chances to kind of change the narrative in some aspects. And but when I look at Empire Strikes Back and what was happening there, how Luke had to go on this mission to find Yoda, right?
Right.
He was.
You mean like Rey had to go on this mission to find Luke?
Find Luke, right?
Okay.
So now Luke is taking on he's the new wise old sage of the Jedi, right?
Right.
This mythical being of energy and skill and knowledge, right? That's how Yoda was. That's what Yoda represented when he was knocked out on Hoth. And
1 second, I just want to shout out to Jason, Shalonda, and Lydia. They are tuned in.
Okay, shout outs.
Make sure you come correct. We got at least one. I know for a fact one Star Wars aficionado in there.
Yeah, I'll probably get my.
We'll
card
get
pulled.
called out.
I know I'll probably get my card pulled. But so when Luke was knocked out on Hoth, you know, Ben came to him, or rather Obi-Wan came to him and told him, "Hey, you know, go to Dagobah and meet up with Yoda." So the same thing, right, with Rey. Another thing is that and I'll skip around and you'll ask me specifically or you'll say your own thoughts, but there's another instance when Rey needs to confront what's down in that hole I don't remember the name of the planet she was on. It's like Aral.
Oh, which planet? What are you talking about?
When she met up with Luke.
When she met with Luke, what's the name of that planet?
That specific, yeah, it's a sanctuary to the Jedi. It's a quick IMDb, but yeah. I'm not looking.
See, and I spent some time memorizing all of these planets. Like I know the planet in the end was Crate.
Right.
I know that they went to Cantobite for the casino.
Yes, that was Cantobite.
And I know that Rey is from Jakku.
Yes. But you can't think of the planet that they were on.
But it's not Hoth, right? That's a different planet.
Hoth is Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
That's an ice planet. But anyway, I digress. So, and we'll jump back into it. So, real quick, so when she has to go down into that hole, and it was this mysterious hole, and he was like, "That's where the darkness is, the dark side, and things like that. Don't go down there, blah blah blah." And she goes down to confront her fears, right? She goes down there she's trying to get an answer, and then all it is a reflection of herself, correct?
Right.
The same thing happened to
Luke. It's very literal, and I'm going to give a shout out to Movie Bob for that, but it's a very literal that the thing that she went down there to find was a mirror so she could look at herself.
Right? You know. Okay, so the same thing happens to Luke when there was this odd noise that was going on in Dagobah. He was in the swamps, and Yoda is saying, I don't remember it specifically, don't quote me on that if Yoda was saying something to him, but he heard this noise. It was this constant noise that was ringing in his ear. And he goes to investigate. And when he goes to investigate, he confronts Darth Vader. And
cuts off his head. But then when he takes off the helmet, it's his own face. And again, the same thing that happened with Rey.
Exactly. So again, that's why I'm going to keep coming back to Empire, because it's very similar, but I can't say that the way Last Jedi was done was executed. And I'm not looking at this thing with rosy glasses, but it just wasn't executed with I'm trying to think of a word, but with this certain precision or just pacing that Empire was.
I want to ask you
in terms of how it cut in and out.
I want to ask you a question though. Now, there's a lot of similarities because you can also look at the idea that what was the big thing. Like, the whole point in Empire Strikes Back was Luke found out who his father was.
Right, the revelation.
He found out his lineage.
Right.
Rey finds out her lineage.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And so a lot of it sort of goes to that.
Yes.
I mean, Rey didn't get a limb cut off, but
no.
So my point is, when did you first see Empire Strikes Back? How old were you?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I was young.
Let me ask you a question. Were you looking at films with the same sort of eye that you look at films with today?
Absolutely.
When you're talking about pacing and all those other things.
Absolutely.
So who's to say that is sort of not just a party at childhood, so it gets, you know what I mean, a certain reverence. But we can come back to that, because that's going to be a longer conversation.
Exactly.
Now, I just want to go through sort of the plot points, and we can start out. So this thing starts out with traditional Star Wars, like a space battle.
Yes.
How do you rate this space battle to other space battles in the Star Wars? And what did you feel? How did you feel about the opening? So just for a little bit of setup, this is sort of the first film where it picks up literally right where the other one left off, right?
Okay.
Usually in the Star Wars film, like they do like a time jump.
Yes.
But in this one, they picked up from where The Force Awakens left off, and the Resistance is on the run from the First Order. So we're in the middle of this chase. Actually, the whole Resistance plotline in this is a big, long chase.
Right.
And Poe basically doesn't follow Leia's orders, and he tries to take out this dreadnought, losing most of their fleet. So they don't really have a way to defend themselves. Now, what did you think about that?
So for me, if I'm not mistaken, Revenge of the Sith had the best space fight opening, right?
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, that's when, as soon as the movie cuts and that dialogue is scrolling up, right? Anakin is in the ship and he's flying over this big Imperial cruiser, and then as soon as it's quiet, it's completely quiet, and as soon as he comes up over that horizon, it's chaos everywhere, and there's a whole battle going on. So in terms of The Last Jedi, you asked me a specific question: where do I rank, or how do I think of this space battle in terms of that Star Wars tradition? And it falls flat. It didn't feel there. It felt there was something missing. You know, it felt very empty. Okay. So it felt like another space battle that we're used to, but it didn't have that same chutzpah, if I'm using that word correctly.
That's what you're going with it?
Yeah, it just didn't have that same feeling. It didn't grab me like most Star Wars space battles do on the onset of the film.
Okay, but now, as far as the opening, how do you feel about them sort of picking up where they picked up at?
I don't mind it, but again, so remember, when The Last Jedi starts, as I'm like going back into my mind and think about this film, Poe comes in, and it was hilarious. Don't get me wrong. How he talks to the admiral or whatever.
You like that? I wasn't a fan of that.
No, I liked it, man. I liked it. I appreciated it. It didn't bother me at all. But the thing is that after he fires the shot or something that happens, then the rest of the cruisers come up, and the bomber fleets are around, and it was just like, well, where were the other? They're not TIE fighters, but where were the other fighters flying around during this time? Why didn't it just show him get specifically to that dreadnought, or you know what I mean, something to that effect? So out of nowhere, the next shot, it's quietly with just Poe. So I'm thinking that it's just Poe leading this excursion or this mission, and then out of nowhere, these bombers, where did they come from? It's not like they came out of hyperdrive or anything like that. They were just there. And so that's what I mean about it felt flat. So it was like they were there to be there, and there was a reason for them to being there, but it didn't get me like, oh, okay, we know that, you know, there was a fight and they finagled out of harm's way or something like that.
No, but I mean, they gave you that in the crawl, and they said, you know, they've been on the run, and so, you know, you're jumping in and out of light speed, so I don't see that as an inherent
light speed,
sort of problem, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the new thing that they added, and this is a funny thing, they sort of added a lot to the Star Wars lore. Now people think that's sacrilege, but I mean, it's all made up anyway, so why can't you add something?
Right.
But did you know that in Rogue One they mentioned that Tarkin was working on, he had a Tarkin initiative, and Tarkin was working on hyperspace tracking or light speed tracking. So it's just funny that they
like, oh yeah, I knew that.
Well, no, I just watched it again. Which is the only reason I know that,
right.
because it's the only whatever. I watched it again.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
We're not gonna get into particulars,
Right.
but it's funny that they put that little Easter egg in the other one to pay it off here.
Gotcha.
Because you could never in Star Wars canon
track somebody in.
That used to be always a cool plot device. If we just get to light speed, we can get away
out
from
of here. Right, exactly.
So now that you can't do that anymore, that's very interesting, and that's sort of locked off in the lore now. You can't. That's just not a thing you can do anymore.
Right.
Okay. So what happens next? Finn wakes up. Right,
the bomb sacrifice and catching the thing, and now Finn wakes up. He's and the first words out of he said, "I know you have 1,000 thoughts, man. You've been in a coma and all this and that." He's like, "Where's Rey?"
Now, how do you feel about that? Because I have some interesting thoughts there.
I want you to say your thoughts because this is you have to. I'll just say real quick. I didn't have a problem with it until you brought something to my attention, which I would like for you to explain in detail. But I didn't. When he said, "Where's Rey?" Like that was actually the words that came out of my mouth as he was preparing to say when he said, "I know you have 1,001 thoughts, blah blah blah. You think about," and the only thing that came to his mind was Rey because it was his affinity for Rey. But
right. So
go ahead, sir.
So the thing is, I kind of didn't really appreciate that because I thought that Finn was such an interesting character in The Force Awakens.
Right.
In that. He was, this is the first time you ever saw a stormtrooper sort of look at the horrors of war and say, "Hey, I don't want to be a part of this anymore." Right? And so there's so much you could have played with in that.
He abandoned it.
And I'll get into my sort of affinity for The Force Awakens in a minute, but that movie, his motivations felt pure in that I just want to get out of here, and then he sort of got caught up into everything, and there was no chance for him to catch his breath.
He wanted to get out of.
He wanted to get out, and the only reason that he had he was getting ready to leave. He had his exit strategy, and then sort of Rey gets caught, and so he goes after them, and in going after them, he sort of gets sort of knocked out, and that's why we meet him waking up in this one. But the thing is, in this one, his motivations are literally just he's running after a girl the whole time. Like, Rey is not super concerned with, hey, what's going on with Finn? Yes, she asks it, but Finn's whole existence in this film is just about Rey. And I feel like you could have done more with the Finn character than that. And that sort of bothered me, other than the blatant politics that they wanted to add.
Remember, Finn's driving thing was he was worried about Rey, and
it was more than that.
He got knocked out defending Rey.
I understand that. That's fine.
That's the last place we leave.
But everything he did in this film was just about Rey. So my thing is this. Rey comes into her own in this film.
Okay.
Kylo comes into his own in this film.
Right.
Poe comes into his own in this film, and Finn is just chasing after a girl. I get that it's Rey, and that's great, but like, you could still have them have like a quasi will they or won't they love story, but you have to make him his own man. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it was a disservice to the amazing character that they created in The Force Awakens.
Well, hopefully there's a payoff for Finn in episode 9.
Yeah, they're just gonna make him run after Rose, which is a whole other thing. But
you just put that out there in the ether. So if that happens, then this really, for one, it gives absolute credit to what you're saying, and then for 3, it's like, dag, how to drop an interesting character in 3 movies real quick.
I don't know, man. So and now the next plot point after that is the first thing we see Finn when he wakes up for. He asks for where's Rey,
right? And
then we cut to Rey on the planet. Can you look that planet up? It's really bothering me.
Okay, let's see what we got. Continue as you.
So and we see this was another one of my sort of problems with the film.
Right.
So basically, they did a lot of build up to in the last film sort of ends on a cliffhanger.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And, you know, okay, we're ending on a cliffhanger, and it's the whole thing is a setup for what is gonna happen.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's Octu.
Octu, yes,
Oh, okay.
there we go.
All right.
Octu. All right, now I feel better. So,
I feel like you're gonna forget it.
So the whole of The Force Awakens is sort of, where has Luke been this whole time?
Right.
What is Luke gonna say? And everything that has been everything in Rey's life that has been leading up to this moment. You left us on a cliffhanger for 2 years. We come back. We're ready to see what happens. And he sort of just throws it away, like just for the sake of a laugh. Like, there's other ways you could have played that, and I feel like it's sort of laughing in my face, saying that, hey, all this stuff that I was worried about and thinking about for 2 years and getting hyped up to see this film, fuck you, right?
Well,
who cares about that?
I mean, well,
so you know, and the people that get so obsessive about this,
right,
are the reason why this thing makes $220 million in its opening weekend.
Right.
The reason why the last one did $2 billion. Right. And if you're gonna, I'm not saying like you need to just give everybody what they expect,
right,
but I'm just saying it should be. You know, you could have conveyed the same thing, but not sort of threw it away for a laugh. In that she could have handed him the lightsaber and then he drops it, as opposed to zoink. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying there, but and you kind of somewhat said it, even within your being displeased by what they did there. Again, I come back to Empire Strikes Back. Yoda wasn't what Luke expected. When Luke arrives on Dagobah and he sees Yoda's this goofy puppet. Right? And he's like hitting R2-D2 with a stick, and he's holding up a flashlight, and he's rummaging through Luke's X-wing and stuff like that. It's this weird thing, right? And this is the most powerful Jedi on in the galaxy, right?
Okay.
And so Luke, the mighty Luke Skywalker, we're all wondering, what is Luke gonna do? What's gonna happen when he gets his lightsaber? How is he gonna feel? What is he gonna think? And Luke, right, in that moment, tosses it. Because the greatest story there is, what is this? It's just a saber. What does this mean, right? Because what was the stories that he's trying to pass down to Rey, as we find out later, that it's more than, the hubris of the Jedi. It's more than just me. It's more than anybody. It's within you, right? Just being a good person, right? And following that truth, right? So, like I said, we'll get a little deeper, but for me, it didn't bother me as much as him tossing it, because, and this kind of goes to what I was saying before, that the similarities are very striking to Empire. It's just that the execution wasn't as tight as Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion. And so him tossing it and him becoming this guy who doesn't care about the Jedi, doesn't care about the Force, and tuned himself out, and he tosses a lightsaber because it doesn't mean anything to him. He's so beyond that. What is he supposed to feel? Like, oh my God, my lightsaber. What is he gonna do? What does it matter?
Now I do wanna. So the other, and I get that, but again, it's just the way you deliver it. Like, right. I do feel like the film especially coming off of Rogue One.
Okay.
I feel like the film leaned a little too heavily on the jokes, and I will.
Last Jedi leaned too heavily on jokes?
And the reason why, and I say that just take a grain of salt with me saying that, because I remember George Lucas at D23, maybe right around the time when The Force Awakens came out, and he's saying, he gets on stage and says, look, I made this thing for 12-year-olds. Right. So we need to understand that, like, it's a movie for kids. So if there's a joke
it's for
here,
the family. Right.
But again, I just think it was a disservice, but it was also telling you, even in the trailers, like they told you, they showed Luke saying, this is not going to go the way you think it is. Right. And that was sort of a message to the audience too, right?
Right.
That's like,
now, in hindsight,
as a movie, that's a message to the audience. It's not going to go the way you think.
Very true.
Right. And he says these little things along the way. He says to Rey, what do you think I'm gonna do? Come there with a lightsaber and
Exactly.
cut everybody down?
Everybody up.
It does. Like, that's not the way this works.
Exactly.
Right. So I get that. I just felt like, it. I don't know. It's not.
It's your
It's
hang-ups
not
with just
what
how...
I wanted it to be. And again, I don't own Star Wars, right?
Right.
And the other thing to understand is that the whole point of this new trilogy is like, and Kylo says it, you have to let the past die.
You gotta let it
right?
go.
So if you are sort of attached, if Luke Skywalker is your childhood hero, you know what I mean? If you grew up finding empowerment from Leia,
right.
if Han Solo is the cool dude,
the coolest
you know what
dude
I mean?
you ever met, yeah,
coolest dude in the galaxy, you have to let that go because Star Wars is bigger than that,
right?
And that's why Luke was saying the Force is bigger than the Jedi. And
right.
what he was really saying is, to the movie audience, Star Wars, as a proxy for the Force,
right.
Star Wars is bigger than the Skywalkers.
Yes.
And that's why they're killing them all off,
right.
to say that we are handing this thing in. Like, we're co-signing it,
right.
but we are handing this thing in over to the new generation.
Right. And that's very difficult.
The story beat that they went with was Luke has turned himself off from the Force,
right?
Which is why he didn't know that Han was gone,
right?
Although Han's not Force sensitive, so maybe he wouldn't know that Han was gone. But
Luke being that powerful, he should be able to.
No. But he turned himself off from it, and
right.
when he did, you saw when he sort of said, "Okay, I'm gonna tune into the Force again." Right. How he just pulled open the building when Rey was about to touch Kylo, but we'll get to that in a second. So Rey is training for a while.
Right. Is it for a while? Sure.
He said he would. Well, she was following him for a while, and then he said he would give her 3 lessons, right?
Or 2.
Well, I think she only ended up getting 2, but he promised her 3 lessons.
Right.
And maybe one of them just wasn't on screen.
And again, I'm going to drive this narrative home until we end this video, that Empire Strikes Back, that the time lapse, I don't know what was the time between Luke learning somewhat, because he didn't become a master and he didn't finish his training just yet. He left prematurely, but the training that he was doing, it showcased that he was training all day and night. So he's handstanding on one hand and holding up Yoda and lifting rocks and lifting R2 and meditating and doing front flips and just all these things, just to become one with himself, right? And getting all of this training going on. And so you get this sense that even when he left Yoda at the time and he wasn't ready, and Yoda told him, and Obi-Wan stepped in and said, "You're not ready. You're going to be afraid. You're going to face, something that you're not prepared to face, and don't turn to the dark side." He still said, "I have to save my friends." And he left, right? And he said, because he has, this is what he has to do. He doesn't want his friends to die. And they told him, "You don't know that. We can't see it. We don't know if they're going to die." And he still left, right?
By the way, Aiden says he'd love a dark side win for once. Like, if there's supposed to be balance, there's not a lot of balance in the universe.
Aiden is absolutely correct.
If the dark side never wins. Although you could argue that sort of Kylo did win this one, and the Empire won it in in Empire Strikes Back, because it leaves our heroes on the run. So technically, they do have a win.
Yeah, I guess.
Now, but Jason says, but what about there are always 2, a good and an evil, if both Jedi die?
What Jedi is he referring to if both Jedi die? In regards to, I'm pretty sure.
No, I mean, Jason, you're going to have to clarify, but I think he's saying that if Luke dies, there needs to... So you understand, and that... This whole idea of balance. Snoke dies.
Died and Luke
but
died.
Luke was there to balance out Snoke.
Okay.
Or Snoke was there to balance out Luke.
Right.
Right? So Snoke dies, that means Luke has to go.
Okay.
Right? Now, if like Rey is the new Jedi,
Right.
right? And I guess Kylo is sort of he's
The
following the
Sith.
dark side, but not
Right.
really the Sith.
Right.
So they're still alive. So
That
when one of them
balances itself out.
goes, I guess the other will have to go.
Right, in some form or fashion. And just real quick, and unless someone can clarify that for me or correct me on that, but if I'm pretty sure that too is reference to Sith, because Jedi live harmonious. There's multiple. Well, at the time there was multiple Jedi. It doesn't matter, but the Sith, their harmony ended very quickly in terms of there being too many Sith because they all grasped for power, and then that's when the idea or the ideology came in where it has to be only two, because any more than that and there's always a rift. So that's where that comes from. So I don't, as you just said, Snoke passed, Luke passed, so that's it. So now it's just Rey, and now it's just Rey, and now it's just Kylo.
Well, there's also the Force kid at the end, the Broom kid.
But the Force is within everyone, and that was the.
Well, it's not within anyone. It could be within anyone. That's the difference.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay.
Now, or you could say it's in everyone, but not everyone is Force sensitive.
All right, but really quick, go ahead.
I was saying, Aiden says that not just a singular movie. He'd like to see a new trilogy that's focused
Sith
around not the Sith, the dark side. The Sith are gone.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that's coming.
Well, maybe that's Rian Johnson's new trilogy.
It just might be. And
after seeing this, are you still excited about a Rian Johnson trilogy?
I am. So, listen, as I said, I enjoyed the movie because I enjoyed what they were trying to do. But I will be honest that they didn't execute it as best as I would have liked.
Right.
And so that's why I always state that, yes, this is Star Wars. It has the scenes, the moments, the energy of Star Wars, but there's something missing that makes you go, you know what, this is Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars, right? And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but for me, that's why I say it's a soft 8. I'm not as harsh or critical as other people, but I keep referring, and like I said, I'm going to sound so repetitive as I keep talking about this. I keep referring to Empire Strikes Back because this is very similar to that part. But if you go and watch Empire Strikes Back, you'll see how well it was executed versus how The Last Jedi tried to do some of these same tropes, and it just wasn't done in the with good intentions, but it just wasn't done right. So, or it could have been done better, I should say. Let me correct myself.
Now, Jason says that that JJ is gonna basically be the cleanup guy to fix all of these things that Rian Johnson did in Episode 9.
I think you're going to
Now,
Go ahead.
I just want to speak to that a second.
Absolutely.
Does JJ need to fix anything? Right? Because saying that he will clean up implies there's something that needs to be cleaned.
Right.
Now, my question is Star Wars only, like we all try to forget the prequels, but is it really only, A New Hope through Return of the Jedi?
Right.
Or is it bigger than that? And do we want to see more? And if we want to see more, why can't Rian Johnson do this? It stands for what it is, and we don't need to clean it up. Maybe the Force works in different ways than we are told. Right? The whole series, and again, this is shout out to Movie Bob, but the whole series about people in positions of power not telling you the whole truth.
Right.
So maybe there do not need, maybe this idea of balance or whatever. Maybe there doesn't always need to be a master and an apprentice. Maybe that's just the old way of doing things. And we are, as sort of elder statesmen in the Star Wars world, we are stuck to the old ways, right? But this is literally for a new generation.
Yes.
So maybe everything is up for grabs, right?
Yes. And I think so. And I agree with you on that, because actually how I feel, it might be that get off my lawn syndrome as an old man kind of thing, and we're just used to certain things. And so what needs to happen, and this is why it's so imperative, for all we've heard for the longest is that, and Star Wars fans know that Star Wars is such a big universe. There's such all this vast amount of lore that's behind Star Wars, and the Force and the Jedi and the Sith and the Old Republic and all these different planets and all these things, right? But all we know thematically in the, or rather in the cinema, in the films universe, is Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, or now General Leia, and whomever else comes in about, right? And we have Chewbacca and R2D2, and the list goes on, right? With those cast of characters, but the big three are the ones that matter most. And so every time you're watching a Star Wars film, especially with episode 1, 2, 3, etc., you're just thinking about the Skywalker family, that lineage, and what's happening with them. You're thinking about how Darth Vader became him. Is he still alive? What's going on? Everything that's tied to the Skywalkers. And so what Rian Johnson has to do, and what J.J. Abrams has to do, and to what you were asking, is it something that needs to be fixed? No, it just has to have closure. And if you give proper closure,
hold on. I have a thought to that too. Like, this new series is supposed to go on sort of in perpetuity.
Right.
Who's to say there needs to be a closure?
Well,
right? Like,
okay.
so who's to say, like, I'm not like comparing it to the MCU, but
right.
we don't say the MCU needs closure because we know it's a big universe.
Right.
And the whole point of this is saying, do the Skywalkers saga need closure? Yes. Does Star Wars needs closure? Do these new characters, Finn, Rey, and Poe, and Rose now, do they need closure? No, they're going to continue to go on.
Right.
We're probably going to get a new Star Wars movie every year, and they won't all be flashbacks.
You might, listen, truth be told, you might not get Rey after episode 9.
Well,
that's just facts.
She clarified that that's not what she meant. You're referring to that she made a statement about
3 movies
she just
and
said,
I'm out.
No, she said that was the end of her contract. I think she realized like she didn't want to mess up this Star Wars money. But she clarified that. She said, I would gladly come back if they'll have me.
Listen, all I'm saying is that what the fans have to come to realization, and what I meant by closure, is that the Skywalker, we have to get off that train of expecting the Skywalkers to come save the day. We have to get off that bandwagon of expecting to see Princess Leia make an appearance, or Han Solo, or anything like that. Like, that has to come to an end. And so once that's closed up, that's when we get more of what's going on in the Star Wars
you can't
universe.
Tell me the Star Wars universe is this vast thing and it goes on thousands of years and you keep coming back to the Skywalkers.
Exactly.
Because truth be told, the Skywalkers only came on the scene in this world 60 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. It's not like it's not like
just
if you tell me
pedigree of Skywalkers have just been running.
That's another thing that people are saying that Rian Johnson did something special by saying anybody could have the Force. No, he didn't.
No.
There've always been Jedi that were not a part of a special bloodline.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's I unless I'm reading it wrong, this is nothing new that anyone could have the Force.
Right.
Anakin Skywalker was just some nobody on a random planet. Midichlorians aside, right? But you know, where did Mace Windu come? Is he from what, like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, it's not necessarily like you're from this bloodline and that bloodline, at least not in the way that I've taken it. And so Jason says Luke will Yoda Rey in ghost mode, basically in the next part. And I think they were telegraphing that. I think the reason you had Yoda there was just so that people would be okay with the fact that they were going to lose Luke. That was just foreshadowing this. It was a lot of foreshadowing. It was like Luke said no one ever really dies, right? Yoda just shows up as a Force ghost just to let people know who didn't know that Force ghosts were a thing. And something important that Yoda said that I thought was maybe the best line in the film, and this whole sort of new trilogy sort of makes you realize your own mortality, but it is, we are what they grow beyond, right?
That's how it works.
In that, you know, it's not about us anymore, right? The same way when Yoda, you know, became one with the Force in the original trilogy, it's not about him anymore. It was Luke's time.
Gotcha.
And now Luke has lived his life, and it can't be all about Luke, right? And again, that's also a message to the audience in that way.
Side note, I don't like how that just reminded me of something that did bother me. Luke goes in Last Jedi to say, Yoda pops up and he's like, I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to do it, right? Where he's holding the fire candlestick or whatever. He's going to burn down the temple, right? And burn it all. And then Yoda does it for him, right? And when he does it for him, he's sitting there in shock as everything is burning. He's like, "The books. What are you doing?" I was like, "Dog, you was just gonna burn the books yourself."
Yeah, but hold on. Luke was always like a impulsive sort of hothead like that, running off. That was the whole thing.
Work. I don't care. It doesn't work.
No. Yoda was always teaching him that, and that's why Yoda was messing with him. Because, and it's so funny, and I didn't realize this on my own. Someone pointed it out.
Right.
But it was sort of like, what did Yoda say to Luke in that moment before he burned the thing down? He says, "There's nothing in there that she doesn't already have." Now, we thought, she doesn't have in spirit. He meant that very literally.
Right.
She has the books with her because she took the books.
Did she?
Yeah. You didn't notice that? So I did notice that in the end.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if you look, when Finn looks in the drawer on the Millennium Falcon to give Rose the blanket in the end, where Rey gave him the side eye, before Poe was googly eyeing Rey, like, "Hey, Rey."
Where it looks like,
you know what I'm saying?
Choice.
I'm a fighter pilot.
Right.
But he opens that drawer and all the books were there. So Rey stole those books, and that's why Yoda was laughing at him and conking him in the head like, "Dummy."
Okay. Well,
there's nothing in there.
Well, I deserve a conk on the head.
On his Mr. Miyagi stuff.
Okay.
There's nothing in there that she don't already have.
Okay.
Because she literally has the books.
I did not know that. I was just like, yo, you was just amped up to burn the books, and then Yoda destroys it himself, and now you're shocked? Like, what happened there?
Because Yoda was teaching him a lesson. I mean, listen, even if she didn't take the books, the lesson Yoda was trying to say is practice what you preach. You say that the Force is bigger than the Jedi.
Right.
So why do you need those texts?
Right, but
you know what I mean?
I understand that, and I'm going to get off of this, but I'm just saying the fact that he was getting ready to do it, and then when Yoda does it for him, he's shocked, like, how could you destroy it?
No, because he was getting ready to do it, and then he stopped, right?
Oh, okay.
He stopped, and then he was going to do it again, and then Yoda was like, "Shut up."
Right, okay.
Still the same dumb kid I told all them years ago.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
all right.
Now I want to get into maybe my favorite character after they ruined Finn in this movie. Maybe Finn will be my favorite character again in episode 9, but maybe. Kylo Ren.
Okay, Kylo.
Now, what do you think about his arc in this?
He's very immature, and so the only thing that I took away from.
Oh wait, sorry. One
All
thing.
Right.
Now Jason says so. She is new master. I mean, I guess at some point she will, but I think that there's more that Luke has to teach her as a Force ghost, especially since we don't have Carrie Fisher anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
But just back to Rey for just 1 second.
Okay.
I think that, we can say, like, how can she be so good? We already knew she was a good fighter before she even knew she was Force sensitive, right?
Talking about because of her upbringing.
Right. She was always nice with the staff.
That's fair.
Now, the next thing I'll say to you, why are we saying that she has learned really fast? What did she do with the Force exactly that was so powerful?
Wasn't she she was picking up massive rocks.
Picking up rocks.
Yeah.
It's the first thing Luke did.
That is true. She tried to take on Snoke, but
and what did he do? He slapped her in the head with the lightsaber when she tried to pull it.
Right.
And then when she tried to run at him, he just picked her up. It was nothing.
Okay.
She stood no chance. She's never in the whole series done anything with the Force that was like, oh my God. Other than she just has raw strength.
She had that standoff with Kylo in terms of trying to pull the lightsaber. But
yeah, but again, darkness rises and light to meet it, right? So she has the raw power, but as far as doing like very force specific things,
right?
All she mind controlled a stormtrooper in the first one, which that's a weak minded dude, right? They can't even aim.
Like that. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And other than that, she pulled things. That's
right.
the only thing she did with the force. So I don't think this it's like some crazy thing that she did. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair enough. That's
all right. Now tell me about Kylo Ren.
So Kylo is immature, right? He's very immature. And one thing I do like that they did with his character in this is that he had this mindset of saying it all needs to be destroyed, all of it. You know, Jedi, the Sith, everything. Just get rid of all of it. Let's just burn it all and start anew. You know, upon the ashes. And his conviction in that was real. So I understood where he was coming from with that. And he was trying to take Rey, and he kept reminding her, like, me and you, let's just change this whole landscape. And again, that same thing happened, and I'm going to say this again, happened in Empire Strikes Back.
Hold on, sorry. I got one thing.
Right.
So Jason says that she bested Kylo Ren with a lightsaber. Did she really? Like he would like Chewie shot him in the stomach. He was about to die.
You're talking about
in Force Awakens, because people try to say she's overpowered, but I don't really subscribe to that, because like he was shot in the stomach, and she's already a fighter. We know that.
Right.
This might be her first time using a lightsaber, but she was nice with the staff.
But so Kylo should have done something like
he was shot in the stomach.
Was that pre-fight or during?
That was pre-fight.
Okay.
And he was coming after limping, bleeding out. Because right after he killed Han, Chewie shot him right in the stomach. And he had to limp out to the woods. So that's where...
Okay, so you're saying advantage for her just in that instance.
Because all she's done with the lightsaber, other than beating a half-dying man, is fight the Praetorian Guards, where she had to fight one at a time, while Kylo was fighting like three at a time.
He was definitely taking on them about
So, she's not as overpowered as people like to say.
Maybe perception turns into reality sometimes.
Anyways, sorry. Back to Kylo.
So, yeah, just I as I said, in Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader was saying the same thing to Luke, except his vision was we can rule the galaxy. And I don't know, I don't remember verbatim if Kylo had that same thought process with Rey, of saying that we can rule everything, or if he was just saying let's just build something anew. If the premise is that by building something anew that they're going to be the rulers of all of this, and that everybody has to fall under their iron fist, then he's saying essentially the same thing that Darth Vader said to Luke in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but still, when Darth Vader said that, he was like,
"Yo, we're gonna, me and you are gonna kill Palpatine. He sees you, he senses you, he knows what's gonna happen. Like, let's just join together, kill him, and take over everything." That was Vader's pitch.
So Kylo's was the same thing.
If Kylo was saying that, because his conviction was in let's just destroy all of it. I don't believe in the Sith. I don't believe in the Jedi. I don't believe in none of this stuff. Like, let's just destroy all of it and build something anew. And I don't know if he meant that in a good way or if he meant that in
Well, no, I don't think he was turning to the light side. Right? I think that, and they said that, like, Yoda knew it, even Leia knew it, and Luke knew it. Like, everybody knew it. Like, it's the only person that didn't know was Han, and we saw how that worked out for him. They've all basically gave up on him. Like, Luke only went to see Leia to be like, look, I gotta fuck your son up, right? And she's like, yeah, he's a dick anyway.
Right.
Do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. Yeah, true. What's your thoughts on this guy, Kylo?
So I like I said, Finn was my favorite character, but they did him dirty in this movie, and we'll get into the whole Finn and Rose thing in 1 second. But so my favorite scene in this movie was when Snoke told him to take that ridiculous mask off.
Oh, when he was
right?
He was reprimanding this guy.
And it's just and it's the same thing we were thinking, like this, because when you first watch it, like, oh, this is your new Darth Vader. It's a fake Darth Vader. Darth Vader. Right. Shut up. Take that shit off. You're not Anakin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You're just a wannabe. And he just, like, this dude who's so powerful, like Kylo, who's so powerful, you see that he's just this emotional sort of cosplayer. Right? And all he wants is to be the real deal. And so him going through that, sort of living through the myth and the lore.
That's messed up.
Yeah, but that's what he was.
And
he realizes it and then smashes the helmet because he realizes, like, yo, I'm a clown. You know what I mean? And the fact that Snoke calls him out on that is great, but the fact that he was holding that animosity and that they didn't make him, because I'm telling you right now, you remember, we were in the theater when we saw this together. When him and Rey were fighting, which I think was actually, like, sort of convenient that they just got him there, and then I'll get to that in 1 second, but...
Oh, you talking about in the Red Room?
Yeah, okay. When they fought in the throne room.
Right.
So, but
Red Room is different. So,
when he and Rey are fighting,
right?
Like, it would have been whack if it's like, okay, he turned to the light now.
Yo,
also, where does the trilogy go after? No, but I said everybody's clapping, and then I'm like, yo, but he killed Han. So I don't know why all these people in the theater are clapping.
Right.
But the fact that he just turned from there and he sort of used that to just get the one up on Snoke so he could stop, like, clowning him.
Right.
And now he's in charge.
Right.
Like, I thought that was interesting. And also,
no, that was dope. Was dope.
The idea of how because this idea that he's alone. You know what I mean? Because everyone has betrayed him. And I thought that was actually great, what they did of telling the story of Luke and Kylo from the different perspectives of how they sort of broke up, how the master and the sort of student, or the master and the Padawan sort of had the disagreement.
Right.
Because at first you're like, oh, Kylo just went bad.
Well, there was like three versions, right? Or something like that.
Right. And then Kylo, you tell it from Kylo's version, this dude tried to kill me. This is my uncle.
Right.
You know, all I want to do is be a Jedi and train and be better and be like him.
Right.
And he's trying to kill me because he thinks I might be more powerful than him.
Right. So of course,
so basically, my parents threw me away to this dude, right? Like, Han is just being Han.
Well, that's why he has that resentment.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Han is the Rolling Stone.
Or perceived.
Leia is busy with the Resistance.
Right.
And then you give me to Luke, and Luke tries to kill me. These are the people that I read stories about that I just wanted to be. I was so happy to be a part of that family.
Right.
And this is what they do to me. So I have nobody, and the person teaching me now tells me how stupid I am. All the time.
Right.
So I get, like, that to me, that motivation
Teenage
there.
angst.
It's bigger than teenage angst because he's like 30-something years old, but
well, I'm just he's
the point is everybody turned his back on him, and because he had this connection with Rey,
right?
That moment when he said "join me,"
right,
and then he hit her with the "please," I was like, oh that's okay,
right,
all right. So I really appreciated what they did there, and I appreciated that it was like, look, I'm taking him out. And I don't care about none of those stories because you know what they say? Never meet your idols. Right? Everybody's a fucking asshole.
Right.
And I am. That's true. You know what? I am the man, and I'm gonna run all of this. I just killed the top person out there, and as soon as I see Luke, I'm gonna kill him too. Because it's not about them anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to me, that was great.
That was something within itself.
And then, Aiden brings up, don't forget about the Knights of Ren.
They are coming in episode 9.
Will they?
They have to.
Do they?
They have. Yes, they do.
I don't know.
Because this is not a cleanup. This is just
Snoke was supposed to be somebody big, and they just killed him. You don't know. JJ just be like.
Yo, all right. I'll tell you this. All right. If this is J.J. Abrams brings up the Knights of Ren, right? And then we find out more that Kylo killed half of the Jedi Knights that Luke was training, and then he killed the rest, and he took half of them for himself. to train under him. Now, if in episode 9, JJ is just like, you know what? There's no Knights of Ren. They just never exist. It's just all about.
They're a smoke monster, like in Lost.
Oh my God! I'm going to be mad at what this guy did, Ryan Johnson did in the episode, because that was like, all right, we were leading up to these are going to be the baddies for episode 9, and now they just don't exist.
Okay.
Everybody's savoring for the Knights of Ren.
All right. Now, speaking of Knights of Ren and whatnot, I want to talk about Snoke.
Good old Snoke.
Snoke. Now, what did you think was gonna happen with Snoke in this movie? And were you satisfied with what they did with Snoke?
All right, so 2 thoughts was going through my head. One, short answer to your question, no, I wasn't satisfied with what they did to Snoke. But to contradict myself, because I know how Star Wars operates, it was right in line with like the apprentice taking care of the master in some quick work fashion. So that's just what happens. You don't get this major build up. I mean, well, actually, let me correct myself. There is major build up, but once it happens, it's just it's gone in an instant. You know what I mean? You don't see anything or anything. Finding out with whether it's Palpatine or anyone, like they're out of there in an instant. So I would have liked to see more of Snoke. I would have liked to see Snoke fight Luke, or I would have liked to see Snoke fight with a saber, or give me some of that good old fashioned Sith electricity that they always have.
I mean, he did do that though. It
was a little shock. It's like static.
Yeah, but you got the electricity.
Even when Rey was screaming, right, when he was doing whatever he was doing to her, I thought he was like going to electrocute her or something like that. No, it was just.
Did you see Palpatine fight in the original trilogy?
Yes. Oh, in the original, no. It was you saw the magic fingers. He had the magic fingers.
Well, so did Snoke.
No, it was longer. That's what I'm saying. It was a longer instance of this electricity. You know what I mean? Again, look, I'm nitpicking, but I would have liked to see a little more. You know. And so when you got to see Palpatine, even though it was very weird and corny, and then his facial expressions disturbed me in a weird way that still sticks with me to this day. But when Palpatine was fighting Yoda, and that was in Revenge of the Sith, and he was doing all this flipping and all of that, it was just like.
But that's what I'm saying. Do you want to see these old dudes?
This old guy flipping around in CG?
Yeah, because that's what's going to happen. Now, Aiden says, he thinks Snoke was a waste, but at the same time, it goes to show if you get complacent, you lose. Same happened with Vader and Palps.
That is a great point by Aiden.
Also,
complacency is.
Aiden believes that the Knights of Ren will come back in Episode 9.
They have to.
I would like them to, but they don't have to. Judging by the guy that's on the screen right now, that's dead.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with him.
I'm saying, the Knights of Ren could be realized in another book or a spin-off TV show or whatever. That's not to say we have to see them. Come on, what?
So what? Why would you speak of the Knights of Ren and then?
Why would you make a big deal about who Rey's parents are and just say, "Oh yeah, they was junk traders"?
Well, Rey even mentioned that.
Okay. Why would you make all this big deal about Snoke as the big bad and then kill him without a fight?
I mean, Palpatine got thrown out off the roof.
Okay. That's what I mean. You don't necessarily need to see.
Yo, you need the Knights of Ren, all right? I know JJ is not listening.
You
and
need
none
to
of them
see
care
why
about
Captain
what I'm
Phasma
saying,
is
but
such a big deal.
You need to see Knights of Ren. Captain Phasma did her thing this time.
Did she?
Yeah, shooting and looking crazy.
She still got beat.
But she got hit in the face, man. And then.
I mean, I don't think Phasma's dead.
She's not dead.
You know what
I mean? Phasma did her thing.
People have come back from worse in the world of Star Wars.
She styled a little bit.
She got thrown in a trash compactor in the last one.
For one, when they were firing shots at her, it was pinging off of her armor, right? Because she's that chick. And then on top of that, what is this girl's name?
Rose.
When Rose started shooting at her to save Finn, she just took care of Finn and then started blasting the shots right back. It was just
she did like a Morpheus like move on the bridge when the car was coming. But anyway, Snoke.
Yeah,
okay,
all right.
So
Snoke.
I think
Snoke was quick work, man. So what else is there to say? Go ahead.
No. But look, Snoke is the one who lured Kylo to the dark side.
Yeah.
So, and I think Andy Serkis did an amazing job with Snoke.
Mm-hmm.
He there was this presence there. He was menacing. He showed that, and again, Kylo didn't beat him. Like, he beat himself for not paying attention. He was so like pleased with himself, laughing, like spit coming out of his mouth. Yeah. I control his every move. I see his emotions, and he saw his emotions. He just read it wrong.
Well, remember, he was slowly, as Kylo, he was reading into Kylo's mind, right? And Kylo is moving his saber to point it at Rey. And as he's doing that very slowly and meticulously, he's using the Force to move the other saber that's right by Snoke's side. Right. So he can't really, he wouldn't notice that because he's doing it simultaneously.
I'm saying if Snoke wasn't so pleased with himself in the moment, he would have noticed that the lightsaber was turning towards him.
Right. And in truth, I mean, again, to your point, this happened in Empire.
It's hubris.
When
hubris gets
Palpatine was like, yes, blah, 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 don't you see, this is my creation, going on and gushing about Darth Vader and just electrocuting Luke. Darth Vader's just standing there, and he's like, I'm all powerful, I'm all knowing, I'm all seeing, you don't join me, I'll kill you right now. And Darth Vader just goes over and picks him up and throws him.
Now here, but see, that was even different, right? Because that was like, look, Darth Vader is more powerful than him.
Right? Well, he had a moment, he's watching his son get, like, shot and killed.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, this was different in that Kylo just did a little trick when he wasn't looking.
Okay.
Like, Darth Vader just walked up to Palpatine, picked him up, and like DDT'd him down a bottomless pit. That's very different from, let me do some little sneak tip. You know what I mean? I'm just turn this to the side a little bit while you're not looking, and then I'm going to try to cut you in half.
Right.
And I still felt like, and you said this, a lot of people said this, that he was going to like force himself back together.
Yeah, that's
pun
what
intended.
I thought. Yeah. Let's see what you
but it does make me wonder, though, how Palpatine couldn't pull himself up from that bottomless pit if
it was like electricity or something like that. It was like, you know what I mean? He like got shocked and disintegrated. I got to look at Return of the Jedi again.
No, I'm just saying if Leia can do the Force Superman in space, then why couldn't Palpatine? But again,
Mace Windu got blasted out of a glass window and then just...
I know. Okay. So now we have to come to what some people are calling arguably one of, if not the best fight scenes in Star Wars. I mean, I would say that maybe goes to Phantom Menace.
Yes.
But
and Darth Maul.
Yeah. But there is the throne room Praetorian Guard scene.
That was dope.
Was one of the highlights of this film.
Yes, it was. That was dope.
Like, now Aiden says I need to be serious that there's no way Vader was more powerful than Palpatine, but I don't know. They just pick him up.
Well, again, Palpatine was thrown off. He wasn't expecting it because he was in his moment of hubris and talking all this junk, and that was the moment when Darth Vader saw his son and he broke at that moment and then came back and did the right thing and tossed him. And Palpatine didn't expect it.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, Aiden. Which Obi-Wan versus Anakin is that like in A New Hope, or are you talking about in Revenge of the Sith?
What is he? What
He
happened?
says that Obi-Wan versus Anakin is the best fight scene to date.
He's talking about Revenge of the Sith.
Where they're on the lava pits and they're jumping from things to things.
They were on this little moving space where there was no space to move, and it's lava everywhere, and they're just dueling it out and battling. So I can understand where Aiden's coming from in terms of seeing that fight, but this last Jedi scene was kind of dope. But I want you to defend why you say. Well, you didn't say you agree. You're just saying that some people are calling the best fight scene.
Okay.
Go ahead and give your reasons.
No, well, here's the thing, and this is not. I've heard people say, and it is true. This is the first Star Wars saga film because there were no lightsabers in Rogue One,
Right.
but there was no in all 8 of the saga films so far. There was no lightsaber on lightsaber battle in this film.
No.
Those Praetorian guards did not have
I know.
lightsabers.
This is the first one. That's why, and real quick, that's why when you asked me, you said, was this the best fights you've seen? I said, I have to look at the video again, but I believe I'm on record saying that, yes, these were up there. I'm not going to sit up there and say that they're the best, but I said it's not lightsaber on lightsaber. No, I'm not going to go and say that it's the best lightsaber on lightsaber. No. So.
Now, here's the thing. I don't fault anyone who says the Phantom Menace because the whole Darth Maul.
He changed the game.
That was crazy, right?
Changed the game.
Even in the moments between where they had to go through the doors, the laser doors,
oh, man.
and it was just like, okay, I'm conserving energy. Like they're just looking back and forth at each other. Then they both calm down, Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul, and they sit down and go into their meditation pose until the lights, until the doors open.
I gotta correct you. The beauty of that, real quick, the beauty of that is you're half right. Qui-Gon is meditating.
Right.
And then he teaches his young Padawan to meditate with him. Darth Maul is pacing back and forth, and that's the energy of the Sith. There is no wait, there is no patience. He's going to kill them. That's his intention, and that was what was beautiful. You saw that juxtaposition.
Now, for me, I'm gonna say my favorite, and again, this wavers back and forth from film to film.
Right.
But for me, my favorite was in The Force Awakens, when in the woods, because it's raining, they're fighting, there's trees getting chopped down while they try to slice at each other, and this was the first sort of Star Wars film where the swords, and I said this to you before, if in The Force Awakens, if in the original trilogy they were using wire fu and sort of katanas, right? As far as what the weight of these lightsabers are. Right. In The Force Awakens, they were like broadswords.
Yes.
Like Kylo's sword is heavy.
Very heavy.
You know what I mean? He swings it. There's a weight and a noise to it. And when he swings trees come down. You know what I mean? Right. So when you had that sort of battle out there between not only Kylo and Rey, but also Kylo and Finn at first. You know what I mean? And Finn was no match for Kylo. But that to me, and again, the planet is falling and being destroyed, crumbling around you.
Beam,
The planet is crumbling around you, and you're fighting, cutting down trees. So to me, that was the most sort of visually pleasing lightsaber battle in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, but that room, man, that battle in that room, just the way when she throws the lightsaber to Kylo, and then Kylo just real quick activates the lightsaber, goes through this guy's face,
and they're wearing red, like they're, not to come back to a Star Trek reference, but they're literally like red shirts. They're just there to get.
They're all red shirts, man. But that was nice. What was happening in that room was nice. How it went into slow mo and everything else, and when they was wrapping around, wrapping.
Aiden says Kenobi versus Maul and Rebels.
Yeah, of course. But now he's bringing up.
Now we gotta stick to the episodes, man. You gotta stick to the episodes.
You gotta stick to the
live
cinema.
action.
You gotta stick to the cinema because you start bringing up other things. I mean, I could say about how Ahsoka, how she holds her saber, how she holds her blades is amazing. I like how she uses that.
Okay, so now but here's my thing.
Okay.
if you are going to say that Kylo and Rey come together for this battle, are they and then right after the battle it's like, okay, we hate each other again? Like, what was the whole point other than we needed this cool scene here?
Well, they had to get out of that situation. They were both, well, not Kylo wasn't doomed, but right, he has his own intentions, right? You said it earlier. He's been getting screamed on by Snoke. He's been getting crapped on by everybody. So he was like, yo, I'm done with this dude, right? And then he had his own vision for him and Rey. Because he does have a little affinity for Rey. He really wants...
No, I'm just saying, right? Like, narratively. Like, I get, like, what happened. Like, Rey went there because she thought she could convince him, and Luke told her from the rip,
it's not happening.
No, you can't.
Right.
And Kylo had his own agenda, and he was just waiting for his moment, and he found his moment, so he took it.
Right.
But the idea that you're going to sort of bring us here, bring them together just to... There was no, like, progression of we hate each other again, right? It was like, I thought I could change you, and then what? You know what I mean? It was just, it was right. Weird that, like, they just went from we're fighting on the same side to, okay, let's kill each other now.
I guess
other than you wanted to get them together, right? I just think you could have just played with your pacing a little bit more to have, but again, minor quibbles.
But those things are the things that kind of bother me with in terms of how this is played out, you know, and why they don't like each other, how that pacing was in terms of the execution of it. Again, I understand that in that moment they needed to get out of there. So they said, well, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend at that moment, and they joined together, eliminated all the enemies. He just killed Snoke. You know what I mean? So what else was going to happen? What were they going to be like? Oh, okay, well, we just got to take Kylo. You know, Rey, you're good. No, they're going to kill everybody. They just saw what happened to their supreme leader. But once that happened, and she's like, yo, you know, now he's like, all right, it's all done. We can build anew. And she said, no, that's not why I'm doing this. And then they're going for the saber and everything else, and it breaks, and she's out of there.
Okay. So I just want to take 1 second and talk about our favorite thing.
Is it our... Oh, okay, what is our favorite thing?
Porgs. The blatant toy selling. Advertising of the new toy that everybody's going to have to buy for their kids this Christmas. Tell me what you thought about these Porgs. I liked them. Aside from...
Did you?
Yeah!
You're lying.
No. Like,
are you lying on camera right now?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. Look, it was and I said this to you like 5 times in the theater.
Did.
They're selling toys.
Yeah.
But that all of this is selling toys, right? You think they're not trying to sell you a Chewbacca toy when he's on screen?
I mean, probably.
You think they're not trying to sell you a Rey toy?
Listen, man, I'm not with it.
Now, I think it could have went wrong the same way BB-8 could have been like stupid. Like BB-8 is a cool toy.
Like it could have went wrong with the Ewoks.
Do you think the Porgs are Ewoks?
I mean, well, they're not swinging off of vines and singing songs, but they're almost
wrapping
there.
their feet up AT-ATs with a rope.
Oh, yeah, no, they're not there yet. Well, actually slamming logs into people's heads, but still, no, I don't care about the Porgs.
The Porgs were absolutely there to sell toys. I understand that, but you know, like they're a little cute thing for the kids. Give that to them. My point is that it could have taken away from the movie, and I don't think it did. I think every time they were on screen,
it didn't take away
every time they were on screen, they actually got a laugh, and it didn't feel forced. Because look, you had Chewie about to eat one of them, and when they were on screen, like making him feel guilty by looking at him like that, and then
if the Porgs wasn't in the movie, would you have been like, you know?
No, but my point is they put him there. They didn't take away from him. So that, to me, for this little, I don't know what they are, but like
birds.
They made up an animal, and it didn't take away from the movie. Like none of it felt like, oh God, why is this here? Not like on Canto Bite,
right?
Where they had all them creatures in there, like the little like rich alien putting coins inside a BB-8. That's bullshit. Don't disrespect Porgs when you got Cantobite there.
You know what's the problem? Well, there's a lot of problems with Cantobite, but the problem with Cantobite and
Cantobite, if anybody doesn't know, and I don't know why you're still watching this if you don't know, but
right.
Cantobite is the casino planet that Rose and Finn went to.
The problem with Cantobite and the inhabitants of Cantobite is that they were all speaking English.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
Porgs could have been Jar Jar, and they were not. Jason points that out. So thank you for backing me up.
Well,
Jason.
you know what? Shout out to Jason for that, because that is factual. It could have been Jar Jar, and that would have been a disaster. So I guess in that, I have to pull back a little bit off the Porgs, but I don't care. Now, really quick about Cantobite is that the problem with Cantobite, and again, this comes back with that feeling of Star Wars that you get. There's a multitude of reasons that's hard to explain to people who are not Star Wars fans and things like that, as to why they like Star Wars, because everyone has their reasonings. But another reason is just the different, I guess not ethnicities, in this case it's definitely races or alien creatures and so forth, right? That's out there in the world, in the galaxy, in the imaginative galaxy. They all have these different languages, these rich languages that people are speaking, and it just feels vibrant. And in Cantobite, all of them spoke English. And it was just like, what? And so I don't know what that was about. And it may not make sense to you, but I'm sure somebody somewhere out there understands what I'm talking about. That when you go into these different situations, yeah, you're going to have some aliens speaking English. Yeah, you're going to have these dialect translators and stuff like that. But everyone has their language, and it's just this big melting pot of creatures and aliens and all kinds of things, living socially together, right? And then on Cantobite, it was just they were all speaking English. They were all just doing what humans do on any other planet, or in one planet, Earth, and it just felt a little off to me. It didn't feel Star Warsy in that sense. So you had the visuals, you had the different creatures. They looked different, but they all spoke English, and it just felt very bland.
Okay, so
that bothered me.
Speaking of Cantobite, the main characters on Cantobite was, Rose. We got introduced to a new character this time. And I always found it funny for a series that has so heavily borrowed from Asian mythology and culture,
okay, that
they wouldn't have any main Asian characters in the film, like lead characters.
Lead characters, no. There hasn't been any lead characters, but they have been Asian cast characters on film, on screen, in multiple episodes.
Right,
but lines, direct lines,
exactly.
Movie time, minutes in front of the camera, no, it hasn't. That much movie or film time, no.
Now,
not
again,
that I can think of off the top of my head.
And I actually like the Rose character.
Yeah, she didn't bother me.
And I just think that
you would be a little crazy too if you was working on, working wherever she was working all day long.
Well, she also just lost a sister, right? So the whole idea, the Rose's story is that she and her sister, that's the woman from the beginning who caught the button to destroy the dreadnought,
right?
Her sister basically sacrificed her life,
right?
And she is essentially guarding the escape pod so that she can sort of stop any potential defectors,
right?
And this is where she meets Finn,
right?
Which again, they could have done so much more with Finn, but his story did focus around Finn
definitely did pick up that little token beacon and was like, I'm out. And I'm going to give her the new location where she and I can.
Like, what did you think was going to be was going to happen?
And then everybody else dies, and then that's just it. That's kind of crazy when you think.
But I mean, it also makes sense in a way because Finn, he just left the First Order. As far as he knows, the Resistance is people that he's going to war with. Like, he has no affinity to them. He just knew he didn't want to be a part of war anymore. Right. And these dudes are in war.
Right.
So for him to want to get away from that actually makes sense.
Right.
Because he only ended up with them because Kylo, he went to go save Rey in Force Awakens, and then he ended up on the ship, and they took him with him. So he's not really a member of the Resistance, although he was like privy to it, and he got to meet Han and all of that. Right. But it was just a thing that happened.
Okay.
And so in this film, I guess you see by the end of it, the first time that he
embraces,
as now says, yes, I'm a part of Resistance, but Rose.
Yes.
So Finn and Rose, the journey that they went on. By the way, I just want to put this out there, and let me put myself on camera for this one. Luke is dead because of Finn and Rose's dumb plan, and you blame Poe too, right?
You said Luke is dead because of Finn and Rose's
because
plan.
If they had gone along with the plan and not tried the mutiny,
but that was Poe.
Poe did that, but Poe sent them on this mission. The point is, they went and picked up DJ. That's Benicio del Toro's stuttering thief character, which I didn't like his character at all.
Okay.
And it's just weird. He talks fine, and then every few minutes he'll put a stutter in it. Like what? I don't know what that is, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
So if they didn't then DJ on that ship, by the way, they failed to disable the tracker. But if they didn't bring DJ on that trip, then DJ doesn't snitch on them, and the First Order doesn't learn of the plan of them going to Crate.
Right.
So they wouldn't have lost the ships, and Luke would not have to come and save them.
Right. Well,
so you know,
okay, yeah, I had to think
that harebrained cockamamie scheme is the reason Luke is not with us today, and we're going to get to Luke's death in a second. But again, back to Rose. So you go to Canto Bight, and again, this is like the sort of Bobo, not what's his name?
Who?
Jabba the Hutt's bar that they had to go to, the Scum and Villainy place, right?
Okay, I don't remember. It'll come to me.
So you look, this is where Jabba the Hutt had Leia, where she was a slave. Where Han,
I know what you're talking about.
So that bar, there's always a scene in Star Wars, even in the last one, in The Force Awakens, when they went to go and see Maz Kanata, right? They went to that. It's a real dirty place, right? So this was that version of that, except like with rich people, right? So they go there, and there's this overt message of, the animals are racing. They're racing animals, and the kids are here,
and they got this rich by selling war goods and stuff like that.
And they tried to make a point of the fact that the rebels buy from these guys, and
the bad guys buy from these guys, and the good guys,
or whoever you think the bad guys and the good guys are.
It's all
but
the same.
Point is, like, I don't know, like. I get you want to make some kind of a message, but I always felt like the geopolitical statements that Star Wars makes have always been
more subtle.
I mean, it's maybe not, because it's always been like light versus dark, but
it's
like
in your face, yeah.
I just felt it felt forced, and it was like, how basic can you be? And I feel like a lot of people are giving them credit for talking about the industrial war complex, and I'm like, come on, it's not. Cut it out. It's not really that serious. Like, you didn't say anything that anybody didn't know.
I thought you like your advertising and your messages blatant.
Nope. But
you definitely said you like your advertising blatant.
Yeah, well, let me know.
All right.
But this felt. I don't think they deserve like a crazy amount of credit, because they said they put that in there. But again, this felt like a waste of time, right?
Okay.
And I'm not mad that you had like our heroes go on a journey and then it doesn't work out. That's interesting.
Right.
But the journey itself was stupid. There was a lot that you could play with.
Right.
But it just felt like, well, we need to give Finn something to do. And it felt like Rian Johnson was more interested in Luke, Rey, and Kylo than he was with Finn and Rose.
Okay.
So I think they sort of did a disservice to Finn, and I like Rose, but I think that this was the wrong mission to send them on. But hopefully, we'll get them doing more.
Right.
Um,
I'm glad they introduced Rose. I don't really have a problem with her so much.
no. Rose is good. She's a great character, and
that
now
kiss was a little cheesy, but whatever.
That was another problem. Like all of a
Like,
sudden they're in love now, and then she kisses him and then falls out. Like what is that?
Yeah, listen, we've seen worse and worse. You know what I mean? I can't. I'm not gonna fault Star Wars for something like that. It's not so much that she's.
It's not as bad as what Anakin said to this chick. And,
oh my God! You coming at Padme?
Yeah,
when he was talking to Padme and confessing his love.
Padme didn't do it. It was Anakin coming out there. So
Anakin went hard. He went hard in the booth. But yeah. So really quick, as far as I'm not so mad at Rose's character, or even how she came about, her mission, her vision, what she was trying to do. Her own story beat. I don't have a problem with that. But like I said, the kiss is just like, oh, come on. It was just, and I don't have a problem with the kiss. It's just, I don't have a problem with them kissing, I should say. Correction. I just have a problem with the kiss. It just felt so, quick, and it was just cheesy in that situation. It didn't feel very natural, but whatever. It happens. As I said, there's worse.
Now, I just think, like, it feels like the film could have been 2 hours. I'm not saying take them out, but if you're not going to give them something to do, maybe give Finn another movie.
Right.
Right? Because if you tighten this movie up to 2 hours, it would have been great.
Again, it comes to that disjointed. I mean, it's not disjointed, but it feels disjointed in the pacing. And that some things was there unnecessarily. Like it was just there just to be there. And that's why I keep coming back to this, and I'll say it ad nauseum, that they did the same story beats or similar story beats to Empire Strikes Back, except they were also trying to get along the message that we have to grow up and move forward past the Skywalker story. And so we're trying to really push this thing along to let you know that Star Wars is bigger than them. And in order to do that, we're going to have to kind of change the narrative just a little bit. So, but they still followed the formula that was similar to Empire Strikes Back, but Empire Strikes Back did it so well. And it was so tight, and it was just every single scene, every shot, everything was about Empire Strikes Back. It was just phenomenal.
Okay, now Jason says, she felt like life was short, so why not go for it?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's just, maybe if she just said the things you care about, as opposed to love,
and
whole
give me the
thing
shot of her
weird.
like looking in his eyes, and then she kind of passes out, and that's like the last. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just the love is strong. Just take it easy.
But Jason is right about.
Okay,
that.
so now I want to come to Crate because we gotta get to the meat and potatoes
meat
here.
And potatoes, as if we haven't talked enough.
So, what did you feel about the third act of this thing? They're on Crate, the red salt planet.
I don't even know why it was just thrown in there just because.
What do you think was the significance of the color red in this film? They used a lot of it. And I'm sure people are going to write essays and books about that, but red was a strong color in this film.
I don't know he also licked it and he was like, oh, it's salt or whatever.
No, but I mean there's red everywhere. The Praetorian Guards,
right?
You know what I mean? Kylo's lightsaber was always red, but that planet, the clothes.
Illuminati.
Okay, well there you go.
Illuminati.
But okay, now what did you tell me what you thought about the third act? Let's just walk us through it.
Really quick, what was my thoughts on the third act? They get to the planet. Obviously, it's disclosed that hey, send all the troops to that planet. We know that it's an old rebel base, and so they're trying to get ready. But also, I don't know, man. It's just. The planet felt lifeless. It's just something.
Well, that was the point. It was an abandoned planet.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was an abandoned base, but not.
Yeah, but the whole planet. That's the point. The only purpose of that planet was to have a base there.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, that kind of clears it up for me. But the third act, how it was leading up, there was that shot of R.I.P. Carrie Fisher of her just standing there, and the sun is over her eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, and then finally she turns around and the door's closed. I was like, that was unnecessary. You just got a dope shot of Carrie Fisher just because you can, but I didn't need that.
Oh, you know what? Before we get to that, How do you? Because we didn't talk about this. What did you feel about Leia using the Force?
I'm okay with her using the Force. Just her using her like Super Saiyan powers and like flying back in was just kind of a little off-putting for me.
But now,
Not that that's unrealistic.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if you could pull stuff to you, why in space can't you pull yourself towards something?
No, I'm not that that's not unrealistic. And yeah, Movie Bob is correct about that. Not that that's not unrealistic. It was just a little off-putting for me. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody shot I mean, nobody could at that moment, but shoot a lasso or something, and then she reaches to the lasso and gets pulled. I mean, it was just she just turned into God at that moment.
The last time you're gonna get to see Leia use the Force.
I didn't see her use the Force at any time, so no.
So okay, so let her do that.
In her last breathing moment, she's now God. Like, it was just weird. I don't know.
Leia's a god, man. What you want?
She was also a princess and a general, but I don't know. It just was a little weird. Like, and then again, the shot. It was just her floating and the hand and the wiggles and her eyes, and then she's whatever. You know what I mean? It's just.
I mean, we're not mad with Luke's Force projection from another planet, and these.
But that happens.
And the Force Skype.
But the listen, that Force Skype is crazy. Because he's sitting there and then he's holding on to these I don't know, those some little trinkets or something like that in his hands, and then out of nowhere when he fights Kylo can go through him, so he can make himself physical and then he can't. I don't know. It was just things was getting weird in that third act. Things was getting very weird.
So is that just Rian Johnson expanding the lore, or is he
just ex machina a certain situation?
No, just like, okay, we're gonna use the Force as a plot device to do cool things or to explain stuff that don't make sense logically.
I think he definitely got a little loosey goosey with expanding that Force, the usage of the Force.
But again, see, Jason says the whole super Leia thing was too much. But I don't think...
I agree.
But I don't know that it is too much, because the thing is, like...
If she... Listen, again, I'm nitpicking real quick. Hold on.
Luke left dice from the Millennium Falcon. How does that even work? I came here and force projected myself with a fresh haircut, and then left you with dice, and then I'm dead.
And he has a haircut.
And then I'm dead... And the Force dice still are there. By the way, I gave those Force dice to Leia. And Leia leaves the Force dice on the floor. And then Kylo picks it up just in time for it to disappear in his hand. And we're mad at what Leia did?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yes. All of it doesn't make sense. Because in the third act,
but Luke, this is Jason I'm talking to. Jason says, Luke projected the dice, projected scene kills him, right? Like, so his Force projection kills him, right? But why?
He used up too much of his Force or whatever.
Okay, but Carrie Fisher didn't do anything. If I can pull that rock to me, that lightsaber to me, why can't I pull myself? By the way, in space, all you need is the littlest. There's no thing, right?
Right.
So it will pull you there.
Gravity.
Again.
So if you get pushed in space, you're just going.
That's it. If nothing stops you, you're going forever.
So did anything stop her when she flipped, like continuously into space and then just stop?
No, she stopped herself with the Force.
From where?
Because she has the Force. I don't understand I'm not following.
Listen, guy. Yeah, see, I'm like breaking. Anyway,
I'm just saying, if you can accept the Force dice, you can accept.
I didn't accept the Force dice.
Well, that's fine.
Saying that it was just a little off-putting. That's all I'm saying. It's not that she can't be a powerful Force user, Force wielder, Force sensitive, however you want to frame it or word it. It's just that it was a little off-putting that she just turned into God and then just zoomed back into the.
She didn't
space
though.
Stuff.
All she did was pull herself the same way. If I pull a lightsaber to me, right?
You was cool with that? You was cool with her?
I didn't like the way they set up the shot, but I'm not upset that she pulled herself back in.
Okay.
Now, Jason says she got blasted and her movement speed would have been crazy.
Yes.
She got blasted out.
He is 1,000% correct. If we're talking about how space works and how gravity works, if in one instance that if you get blown into space like that, she's forever moving, and you're telling me that she stopped herself with the force. Okay.
Okay, because she found an anchor to pull herself on, right?
Oh, Lord.
Look at, okay, just hear me out for 1 second. And I don't want to, like, dwell on this thing. But look.
This is giving me a headache.
If I pull that lightsaber to me, right?
Yes, okay.
The lightsaber is coming to my hand, right?
Okay.
And I'm standing still, right? So what if I'm pulling the lightsaber to me, but the lightsaber is nailed to the desk, right? But I'm sitting on a chair with wheels. Now I'm pulling that thing towards me, but I would go towards the lightsaber, wouldn't I?
Yes, you would.
So it's the same thing. So she's just like basically pulling the ship to her, but the ship is bigger than her. So the ship is essentially, think of her as sitting on a chair with wheels. That's all I'm saying. But again,
I'm not getting into this.
Let's not.
I'm just all right.
Okay, so
what's your thoughts of the third act? And then
now again, I thought the third. That's where the film kind of comes together.
The music, man, when Luke is getting ready to fight Kylo and stuff like that, and that music is just picking up. I just wanted him to destroy all of those whatever they are. I don't know what version of AT-ATs those are, but I just wanted him to destroy all of that. But he did it.
And again, here's the thing. Like the third act, you get, this is where Finn's story gets to make a little bit of sense.
Okay.
And by the way, you know there was a deleted scene where Finn runs into someone, a guard that he used to know, and the guard congratulates him on his promotion because he's wearing an officer's uniform. They cut that out of the film.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't keep that in there.
Wow.
But, you know, Finn gets to face off, and again, he cheated to beat Phasma, but he still gets to face off against Phasma.
Right.
Right? You know, we get Luke and Leia meeting for what will be the last time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We see, and again, I would have done Luke differently, and I want to come to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But we see Luke coming out and doing it, and again, it's not what we thought it was, but he does some crazy Jedi stuff, and Luke faces down the whole First Order, right?
Right.
And again, he wasn't really there, and we can get into that.
Okay.
But all of that, and you know, Leia sort of handing things off to Poe, where she's like, "Why are you guys looking at me for? Follow him."
Follow him, right?
Right.
Right.
And then, you know, Kylo going to go and face his final, you know, because it's basically his final battle. If he can beat Luke, then that's it. There's no right.
He's the man.
And
right.
So everybody is sort of coming into their own. Right. Also, on top of Finn finally getting to face Phasma, Finn finally joins the Resistance, and he's ready to sacrifice himself, not for Rey, but for the Resistance. Although maybe it was for Rey, because he's like, Rey's coming here and I want to make sure she's safe. But that's a different argument.
Right.
So you had...
Did he not know that was Rey in that ship? That was that she was in the Millennium Falcon?
I guess, yeah. He did know it was her because he said they hate her.
Yeah. Or he said they hate that ship or something like
that. Yeah, they hate that ship.
Yeah.
But I mean, he knew that she had the what you call it,
right.
that she had the Millennium Falcon. So,
right.
And then again, Rey coming to save the day with the Millennium Falcon. It all like it all worked really well for me. And I think the way Luke passed was very poetic.
Okay.
And I think, you know, we can quibble that we didn't get to see Luke do his like one great lightsaber battle.
He did slide under Kylo's.
But again, he wasn't there. Didn't matter.
Oh, man.
Okay, how did you feel about the brushing off of the shoulder?
It didn't bother me. It really didn't bother me when I think about uh, how Star Wars is in some of their moments. Again, this was different from Star Wars, but it was still in that Star Wars field. It didn't bother me that he did it. This is nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very modern. I'll put it to you that way. Obviously, him brushing his shoulders off, it was very modern. That's not a Star Warsy thing, but at the same time, it didn't bother me. Yeah, if
That
they
felt
had
like
porgs,
something that Mark Hamill did that wasn't in the script.
who
He's
knows?
like,
I mean, he was
yeah,
talking
young
to the
kids
kids.
are like
He was
this.
talking
You know
to
what
the
I mean?
kids, man. Let him live.
Okay, now, so Luke's passing. This is what it comes down to. How do you feel about it?
I kind of wanted him to go out with a bang, as I said earlier. I wanted
But
him.
you don't think like he went out on his own terms?
I mean, I suppose he, fainted and collapsed and all of that good stuff. For one, he's not gone. He's gonna be back. Like they showed Yoda.
Well, he's
so
definitely
he's
going to be back because of unfortunately what happened with Carrie Fisher, right? Like,
Well, my thoughts on that is that Carrie Fisher has even a larger purpose. It's somehow, some way, CGI or not. And I might be way off on this, but I just think that she'll have a larger purpose just in how she goes out in the third film. Or maybe they had something intended, and we'll
well,
see.
she hasn't filmed any. You understand that, like,
Maybe they cut out some of her scenes from. I don't know.
I mean,
this.
if they cut out some of her scenes, but like J.J. Abrams is literally just pitching his script to the folks at Disney this week.
Like so.
So
okay.
there's nothing that unless again they cut out some footage, but
Right.
like they didn't film anything for episode 9 because they don't have a script yet. They didn't.
Oh, okay.
They haven't started filming that yet. So.
Gotcha. So I don't know.
But again,
CGI or something. I mean,
they
they
did
did it to Admiral. I just forgot his name.
Akbar. Can we give? Hold on,
No, man.
yo. They just took out Akbar like he was nobody.
Yeah, he was gone. Yeah.
So that's
He was
kind of effed up, right there. So can we just take a minute to like recognize that Akbar is gone? I know Luke's gone, but what about Akbar, man?
I mean, he's,
Admirable,
he's-
and they did mention him later.
he's a squid, so he survived long enough.
That's crazy.
But listen.
That's crazy, man.
Anyway,
shout out to Admiral Akbar.
Shout out to Akbar.
Yeah, man.
But no, in terms of how Luke went out, I would have liked to see him just destroy the walkers or something like that, like AT-ATs. I don't know what they're called in these new versions. But I would have liked
Forget
him
about
to
the
destroy
AT-ATs.
them.
Although it would have been an amazing shot if after he sort of blocked all of the shots at him,
Right.
if he just waved his hand. And by the way, his force projection could have used the force to knock those out. Well, if you making him do all of that, why not?
I mean, if he's holding dice, force dice.
No,
or
but
something
here's
like
the thing.
that.
You could have just had him wave his hand and knock the legs out of all of those things, and that's the thing that makes Kylo come down and say, look, I got to fight him myself. Right? Like, that's a thing that could have happened. And then, me personally, I feel like if I were doing this, if I was going to send Luke out, and again, they did what they did, and I understand narratively why they did that.
Right.
But if you're going to take out Luke, like, give us one. You gave us in Rogue One, you gave us one last Darth Vader battle.
Right.
Like, give us one last Luke Skywalker, the greatest
Tarkin.
Jedi of all time. Give us one more straight up lightsaber. Luke comes there to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
Against Snoke or something, right?
I think they should have had Luke fight Snoke.
Right.
And you could still do the force projection thing, but they could say he fought Snoke so that Kylo and Rey could get off the ship.
The name is Tarkin, by the way. I mean, that's eons ago.
What about
when I was
Tarkin?
talking about- I was just saying, centuries ago, I was talking about if they could use CGI for Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah,
you
we
could
said
use
that.
CGI for Leia.
Now
But
again,
anyway, continue.
So if they did something like Luke came to Snoke's chambers,
Right.
to fight Snoke,
Right.
so that Rey could get off the ship,
right?
maybe along, and Kylo either goes after her or they get off together.
There's some chase or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we get to see them fight, and then we, cut away or whatever, or Luke kills Snoke,
right?
Which would, make sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then Luke does his force projection down to the planet, and everybody's like, "How did you get here?" There's no way you could have got off the ship with Snoke because it was blowing up or something.
Right.
Then we find out Luke never left the ship. And this wasn't a force projection, but it was a force ghost that he showed up as.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then you could have still done your whole Luke is gone, Luke sacrificed himself, but you still gave us one good last lightsaber battle.
You have the rebels escaping to the planet. You have Rey escaping to meet up with the rebels.
Right.
You have Kylo in hot pursuit. And then saying, get everybody we need, because he's, everything's blowing up or whatever. He's like, get everybody down to that planet. We got to get them. We got to kill them. We're taking them out now.
Right.
And they're following suit. And you have Luke sacrificing himself in this way against Snoke to get Rey out of there because Yoda just told her, we can't lose her. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so now it all brings it together.
Because Luke essentially would have been keeping Snoke there so Snoke couldn't go after Rey.
Exactly.
Right?
And Snoke's death have this more purpose to it, where you're like, oh, okay. And
I think that Leia should have been the one to... and how clutch would it have been if Leia was the one to do the light speed attack on the thing?
That would have hit the heart.
While Luke was on the ship. And so they both went out in that.
Yeah, that would have. I think everybody would have said this would have been the best Star Wars
Think about that.
movie you would have ever seen, bar none.
Right. So, and they basically both had to take him out together.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So Luke is essentially holding him off. Leia turns the ship around, shoots it, and brother and sister take out Snoke. Right. And then we see Luke show up on the planet. How did you get here? I'm holding him off.
Yo, how about Leia just coming out of stasis or the infirmary and then just telling Holdo yo, hold it down, kid. Good looking. And then she just gets on the ship and Holdo's off to just
That's what they could have did. Okay, so but all of that said,
yes, sir.
I would have wanted that, and the movie is not about the problem with that. If you want this series to be bigger than the Skywalkers, you cannot show me Luke doing the greatest Jedi shit that we have ever seen in all time ever,
right,
and then tell me he's gone and want me to care about Rey later on, because I'll be like, look, Rey, Kylo, you're never going to be Luke.
Right.
You need to build up Kylo, and you need to build up Rey, and you need to build up Finn and Rose and Poe. You need to build them up so that they are the new, because, again, you have to let the past die.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so just as a franchise, that's going to win you the battle, but you'll lose the war ultimately if you do that.
Right.
And also, there's something to, as an older Jedi, you realize that might doesn't make right? It is not all about the fight and the lightsabers. That's what the kids do.
I need to see Luke use his lightsaber and do some might. All right, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this philosophical stuff about using his mind and how. No, pull the lightsaber out and destroy stuff. That's what I need to see.
And again, the idea that he is an elder statesman, right?
Oh, God.
And, he beat Kylo just by being a symbol of hope. And that's why they showed the kids talking about Luke Skywalker, right? He beat Kylo not by fighting him, but by still trying to give him one last lesson. Right?
Yeah, he did.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so...
He said, see you around, kid. He said, you strike me down now.
Strike me down in anger, and I will always be with you, just like your father.
Yeah.
Right? So this is his final lesson to Kylo. And so that makes sense narratively, it makes sense emotionally, it makes sense for where the character is. But again, again, life is not always going to give you what you want.
Right.
And it's not all about what those legends are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, they subverted my expectations. Would I've liked to see it? Yes. And am I sad that we will not get to see that? Absolutely. But I get it.
Okay.
Now, where do you think we go for episode 9?
Episode 9 will feature the Knights of Ren.
Okay.
And
You're sure about that?
I'm not sure about anything anymore.
Okay.
But so is life. But so Knights of Ren,
okay.
And this guy Kylo is trying to destroy everything, and I think he's going to go on a rampage, and it is going to be up to, she's going to study the text of the Jedi. And
do you think we do a time jump?
There's absolutely a time jump because he's been embarrassed. And so he needs to go back into the shadows to figure out.
Now, when I say time jump, I mean, is this going to take place like right after episode 8, or does it jump forward a few years?
No,
like
I
they
think
did with the Return of the Jedi.
No, I think it jumps forward a few years.
Where Rey is a master now.
It jumps forward a few years because Kylo is plotting his next move, right? So he's trained his knights. They're already nice, but he's trained them even further. And
Jason says the Resistance will be rebuilt.
In Kylo's image, and so
no, the Resistance.
Oh, the Resistance will.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Resistance will be rebuilt. Yeah, I could see that, and so I just see that she's gonna go into her own mode of trying to figure things out, understanding the ways of the Force. Luke is gonna have some projection of some kind. I don't know what they're gonna do.
It's gonna be a Force ghost. That's different from a projection. It's a projection when you're still alive.
All right.
Force Ghost is when you've become one with the Force.
Well, Force Ghost is going to be there, but I just don't know what they're going to do with Leia. And in my opinion, like I said, probably some CGI stuff, because even though JJ is just pitching that idea now, they have to do something big for her, since she's not technically dead in the films. You know what I mean? Like in life, R.I.P., but in the film, she's not dead. So how?
But they could jump forward and just say, like, okay, she passed away. That could be in the opening crawl. They could start it at her funeral.
And at her funeral, that's when they attack. That's when you're gonna feel real scummy for like Kylo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, years have passed.
Top scum Kylo.
Yeah. Like, years have passed, and like now it's there at the funeral, and that's when he finds out like it's time to attack them now, or something like that. So. I don't know where it goes, but I want to just say this and toss it back to you, and then we'll go back and forth, I guess. But my thing is that they wanted to close out episodes 1 through 9 and get the Skywalker narrative done with a nice little bow tie, so that they can move forward and really give you more story and lore of the Star Wars universe.
Right.
More Jedis, more fighting styles, more sabers, more deaths. You know what I mean? Things that really wasn't shown so much. I mean, it was shown, but it wasn't shown in a stylistic way in these Star Wars films. So we have to get prepared that this isn't going to be our or your daddy's Star Wars. This is going to be a new level of Star Wars.
It's for a new generation, and
Absolutely.
that's what the Broom Kid was about. Okay, so for me, I think that the next one, I think all bets are off. I think that this felt, I know they're called episodes, but this felt more like a one-off episode of a TV show, and it ultimately felt a little inconsequential, and maybe this felt like
There's mad stuff happened.
No, a lot of stuff happened, I get it, but you understand that this whole thing took place in the span of 3 days, right?
Right.
Again, it feels like an episode of a TV show, and that's great, right?
This was really one of the most contained Star Wars Like
right, but so
of
my
a Star
question to
Wars.
you is that, and again, maybe Ryan Johnson isn't concerned with like mysteries and all that,
Right.
but like in the way that the Force Awakens set things up, like who is Snoke, um, who are Rey's parents,
What are
where is
Porgs?
Luke?
Right.
No, there was no
No,
mention
no.
of Luke in what do you call it? So these are things that you people sort of made up their own fan fiction, had all these theories.
Right.
These are the things that get you to go to the next Star Wars,
Right.
right? These are like, what exactly are you looking for? What have they set up for you to go and look for in the next Star Wars film?
The Knights of Ren, and how does this all tie together?
Okay.
You know, as just
And now, what
as an
I'll say from this, I'll say those dice will. I'm almost certain those will be relevant in the Han Solo movie,
oh, boy.
and that's why they were there.
Oh,
That's why they
boy.
made a big deal of them.
Right.
They're going to give you the story of those dice.
Right.
And I think that I don't think Kylo dies.
You don't think he dies in 9?
I don't think he dies in 9. But this is also why I think it's important that the other important thing is if he does die, again, I don't think that they will kill him.
Right.
But if Kylo dies, I'm almost certain there'll be a time jump because we're going to say that, okay, 5 years have passed, 9 years have passed. Luke is teaching Rey, but Rey is teaching new young Jedi.
Right.
The battle at Crate was the spark. That's why they kept saying we're the spark that will burn down the First Order.
Right.
Right. And so the news of Luke coming back and sacrificing himself or whatever it is, the news of Luke coming back is the things that gets people to join the Resistance. Luke is hope.
Okay.
Right? Luke has given the Resistance hope, and so if we face them down there, if Luke is back, if Luke is on our side and the Jedi have returned, people will now flock to the Resistance. They don't have to accept what the First Order is doing. So again, the Jedi will be raised up, and Kylo is gonna do something new. It won't be the Sith, but and again, maybe the Knights of Ren won't be the original 6 Knights of Ren, but it will be a whole. They are the new Sith.
I don't know if this is Lucas thinking. I don't know Lucas, obviously.
Well, I mean, he's not. This has nothing to do with Lucas.
Well, I mean, but in terms of what Disney having the hands of the property, they had to ask them. I mean, they can do it themselves, but
no, he gave them where he thought it should go, and they went a completely different
right. It was
way.
like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. But I'm just saying, but they could still always extract 1 or 2 of his ideas, or just completely just dump all of it,
Yeah.
right?
So just say Kathleen Kennedy at this point.
All right, so Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know if Star Wars, in a sense, that the deeper message within Star Wars, along with the good and the bad and light and dark and all this other stuff, is that it's cyclical.
By the way, we're 2 hours in.
We're a long time in. I think there's like 1 viewer now or something. But I don't know if it's cyclical, and that's in the sense that all things always come around. And if that's the case, there is a possibility, if it is in that mindset, that when you get to the end of episode 9 and you think that all is one and we defeated the New Order or whatever they're called,
First Order. Don't disrespect. Don't let Kylo come out here.
There's gonna be some child somewhere who feels the ripple effects of what the Resistance did, and they're gonna feel some kind of way. So wherever there's light, there is always dark, and that's just the message of battle. Like, that's just what it is. You know what I mean? And you're just supposed to understand that the story continues on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's all.
Okay. So now I want to talk about some sort of meta stuff.
Right.
Now, we just spent 2 hours talking about.
You have
this
to
thing.
edit so much of this.
I'm not editing. Not even.
No.
a minute.
I mean, just in terms of Jesus.
Nothing's coming out. Now,
You're not gonna chop any of this.
Nope.
Stuff? Okay.
you can't.
Right.
There's no way to do it. Okay, but aside from that, now, why
This
do
is
you
dedication,
think?
folks.
that we obsess so much? We haven't talked for 2 hours about any on camera anyway. We've had very long conversations about movies, but
Right.
why do you think there's so much fervor for Star Wars? And why do you think people are so upset that this sort of deviated from the norms that we have seen so far in Star Wars?
You're asking me this question?
Yes. There's been backlash to the film.
The reason people, in my opinion, the reason that people have so much problems with this film is because it's not the Star Wars that they're used to. And so I alluded to a couple of things, right? I said that for the uninitiated, right, Star Wars means a lot of things to a lot of people for different reasons, right? That's broad stroking, but you have to understand that there's a sense of exploration. There's a sense of what's out there in the great beyond. There's a sense of traveling. Not traveling, but like space fights and sabers and ships and aliens and language and all these different planets and the score, and it's just so much going on that you think about when Star Wars happens, and there's these moments, and it takes you back to whether it's your childhood and your friends and so forth, et cetera, et cetera. I could keep going, but there's all these little things that make up Star Wars being such a great thing that anybody who has that creative or adventurous mind enjoys, right? And so for people who don't really care for that, it's whatever. So now when you take this film of The Last Jedi and you get the elements of Star Wars, but there's something missing, right? Because you're having Luke die, or you're having the way the Force is utilized, or you're missing. Yeah, there's a couple of jokes, but it's not the jokes that I'm used to, and it gets you unraveled. Or how could Snoke just die like that? Or why they're force feeding me these characters? People start getting up in arms, but again, everyone's so centered around Luke, Leia, and Solo, and so now that these are coming to a close, it's kind of hard to accept that for a lot of people.
I just saw a lot of people complaining about The Force Awakens is just a rehash of A New Hope. And they complain that it's just too much of the same. And then you get this one is too different, and then it's like, and again, obviously it's probably not the same people complaining, but the point is you're never going to please all people, and as an artist, you should never try to please all people.
No, you should just try to make great work.
So
push the boundaries, right?
Is this great work? And the reason I ask that is because sometimes I feel like we are sort of like, we don't want to lose our nerd card, so we just have to, say we like this thing, or we give this thing more credence than maybe it deserves, or maybe it does deserve that.
Well, again, those people,
Star Wars, the original was groundbreaking, right? But since the original trilogy, have there been any more groundbreaking Star Wars movies?
No, and they follow the.
But does there need to be?
And that's where it's in this weird place, because it follows a formula, right? It's very formula driven. The entire Star Wars up to this point has been very formula driven, and that's what people are used to. People are like, look, this is how I like my food, and I don't want anything changed. I don't want anything added to it. Just give it to me the same way that I've always been getting it, right? And you get that, and people are appreciative or whatever, but at the same time, the underlying message of Star Wars is that there's this vast world. There's this vast universe. There's all this lore. There's all this information. There's so much things that's happened. But all we get is, I keep driving this, Luke, Han, Leia. Luke, Han, Leia. Even when Force Awakens came out, everybody was saying, well, where's Luke? Right? Like, that was the response. Well, where's Luke? Nobody cared about Rey. Nobody cared about Poe. Nobody cared about Finn. People were up in arms that a stormtrooper took his helmet off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And
people
other
also up
things.
in horns that
That
Stormtrooper was black.
Stormtrooper was
But
black. I mean, that's true too. You know, so come on. You know what I mean? Like, think about how people are reacting to this. Think about how people are getting mad about Rey and oh, she can't use the Force and how is it just working like that? Like as if, and you said it, like as if Luke wasn't just using the Force right out the gate to shoot
and
stuff.
again, she also didn't really use the Force for anything like crazy special other than lifting up rocks.
But look at how crazy people get, right? Because it's this thing that they're holding on to and they don't want anything to change. It's that old man, get off my lawn thought, right?
Well, I think here's the thing. What I think we get this reaction or we see these reactions because and people are upset with what they did with the Luke character.
Right.
And people are upset with you're not sort of honoring the traditions. Aside from the fact that this is all made up, right? One, you cannot and should not be dismissive of the people who get crazy about this for legitimate reasons. If you're crazy about this, that's the thing. If you're crazy about this because you're a misogynist and you don't want to see a woman in the lead, or you're a racist and you don't want to see a black stormtrooper,
right,
or you are whatever the fuck you are, then like fuck you. But
get out.
If you are being pedantic over what force sensitive people can and cannot do, and you are worried about continuity and lore, and you're worried about setting things up things being set up that don't pay off.
Right.
Those crazy fans that obsess over these things is the reason why your franchise has lasted 40 years. So don't just go say that those people are being too extra. Their opinions are valid. And if you can go and make a movie, Rogue One, which Jason says is insane, and I agree.
Right.
If you can go and make a whole movie about a throwaway line in the opening crawl of A New Hope.
Is Jason still sticking with us?
Jason's still here, man. He's in the zone.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. We've been talking for a while.
If you can make a whole movie from the opening crawl, from a one sentence in the opening crawl of A New Hope, like, or you're gonna do this whole Han Solo movie about some dice that people wondered about, that were hanging on the Millennium Falcon in the original films. Like, those people are the ones that you're making this movie for. Right? So don't shit on them because they're obsessing over it. Because if they didn't obsess over it, your last movie would not have made $2 billion. You would not have done 40 years in, done $220 million your opening weekend. Those people are buttering your bread.
Yeah, exactly.
But now that said, the people, those same people, they associate Star Wars with their childhood, right? And so what you're telling me, when you tell me that Luke doesn't matter anymore, that Han doesn't matter anymore, they weren't particularly my heroes because I'm less of a Star. I know I'm doing like a 2-hour show about Star Wars.
He's definitely doing a 2-hour show about Star Wars.
You know, these guys were our heroes growing up. And when you're telling me their time has passed, in a way, you're telling me that my time has passed, right? You're telling me that I am an adult now. I need to grow up. I need to let go. I now have to sort of confront my my mortality, right? So Luke dying is a part of my childhood dying. And the reason I get so excited about superhero movies and Star Wars movies and things like that is because it takes me back to a time as a child when all of your dreams are intact and you dreamt of space and being the president and being a superstar and you had hope. But as you grow, reality sets in a little more. And we all, just as human beings, lose a little bit of that. But we come back to these escapist movies like Star Wars to just regain a little bit of that sense of wonder and hope. And when you're telling me that those people are gone, what does that mean about that hope? Right? So this is why I think people can get very upset and attached and sort of mad at what they're how they're treating the older characters.
Yeah, and
in
again,
my opinion.
and again, in the film space, this is why this is needed, because it's very hard to move on from that. If you've been telling everyone for the longest that there's more to Star Wars than just these guys, and I keep driving that home, because there's not many films that when I was
Shout
younger.
out to Tamika.
Shout out to Tamika. There's not many films that when I was younger. Good friend of mine, John and myself, who's Mysterious John. But anyway, myself, we used to draw characters based off of Star Wars. We created our entire different world that was very similar to Star Wars, just because of how Star Wars played to us in our childhood. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of reasons why this affects so many people, but that world was very vast and wide, just as it was alluded to how Star Wars should be. But all you got on cinema, each and every film, is just the stories of these characters. And so what Rian Johnson and other ilk and these directors are under the gun to say, okay, how can we close this up so we can see if Star Wars is truly bigger than the big three?
Right.
Or is it just them? Or is it just we need Darth Vader every time? Do we have to keep doing this fan service? Or can we actually move on? And so people are up in arms, but they'll get over it. You know what I mean? And they're just in shock value right now. It's like cold water. It's cold water hitting you at the wrong time of the day. And so you'll get over it. And then when you start seeing Star Wars, I think you mentioned to me in one of our On the Real News shows that they're thinking of doing a Star Wars similar to Game of Thrones. That's crazy.
Oh anything could happen. So, anything could happen with the new Disney streaming service, which may just be Hulu. But
how do you get there if you can't move away from
And that said,
Luke, Han, and
I hope that Rian Johnson's new trilogy is not Knights of the Old Republic, because I'd love to see Knights of the Old Republic in television Game of Thrones.
Like just a weekly form of something.
Where you could just tell a long form story.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I that's what I think. So
Jason says people are still buying Jordans. Okay.
Facts.
All right. Let's close this thing up. You got any final thoughts for these people, these good folks that are sticking with us here?
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Appreciate
it.
Jay,
Jason. Yeah, we talked a lot on this one topic for a long time, and so thank you for anyone who tuned in or who's still tuning in and watching all of this. We truly appreciate that. And I'll just say that as far as Star Wars go, that's why I gave it a soft 8. I have gripes with the film. And I said it all throughout ad nauseum that Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars film, and for 3, it's
we should rank on the next
I can't
on the real show. We should rank on Star Wars
next time. Like my energy is like damn near E. But this film, I got what he was trying to do. Was it executed perfectly? No. Could things have been done better or retcon?
Every film has flaws.
Exactly. Yes, they do. However, I know the message that he was relaying, even if it was shoved down people's throats, was just that we have to move on. We have to move forward. You know what I mean? You're always building something for the next. It's not about yourself. And in that, I appreciate and I understand, because you can't tell me for years and years on end. Can't stress enough. I drew so many characters as a kid about Star Wars, but completely different names and completely different storylines and stuff like that. And it's about a vast world, and you can't tell me there's a vast world and all we keep harping on is the big 3. So I'm ready for it, and I think the crowd is ready for it. It's cinematic. Just one way or another, you got to move forward.
All right. So I think it was a good film, and I don't know if I've said this on this show, but I do not think it is better than Force Awakens.
Force Awakens still gets your nod.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I think that the Force Awakens, the pacing was better,
right?
And it had an amazing balance of We're introducing new characters. We are paying homage to why you actually love Star Wars in the first place.
Right.
There is a balance of mystery, action, character work,
Right.
and
Everything.
homage,
Story
and
work,
paying
everything.
homage.
Right.
Not to mention, it's a beautifully filmed movie. That said, I think this is the best looking Star Wars we've ever seen.
You did say that, right?
I think that this is the
You love
most
the
well
shots that
shot
were- right.
Star Wars we've ever seen. That the light speed attack,
Oh,
the salt planet crate,
right.
just Octu.
Right.
Yeah,
Octus. Yeah.
So all of it was just the look and the design of Snoke and his throne room.
Yes.
And the guards.
Right.
And again, the use of the color red.
Right.
Also, I didn't say this before, but Jason pointed out that he thinks the color red signifies that blood will fall. Right?
Okay. Okay.
So, it could.
Maybe they were preparing you for death. That's a good point that he brings up. They kept reiterating that it's death.
It's
right.
a beautiful film, but
Okay.
I'm saying narratively, I just think that The Force Awakens works better.
Right.
I think The Force Awakens didn't give you a chance to catch your breath.
Right.
I think there were no wasted scenes in The Force Awakens.
Right.
But I do think this is the longest Star Wars film, and
Right.
you could have cut out the entire Canto Bight thing and had a much tighter film, and maybe my thoughts would have been different. And also, and again, there is something to J.J. Abrams literally just gave you what you wanted.
Fan service.
Right?
Right.
But what's wrong with fan service? Fan service is what keeps this thing going.
Right.
Right? The fans are the ones who buy the books and
Right.
make up these stories that whatever. So I think that Rian Johnson took bold choices.
Okay.
I'm still interested to see what his trilogy is.
Right.
Not as interested as I was before I saw this movie twice, though. I will say that. But also, I will say that this film is better the second time you see it.
Right.
Just because you can sort of pick up more things.
Right.
But as far as what this new trilogy is going to be, now depending on what JJ does, this is going to be an amazing new trilogy. If it even is a trilogy, they could just keep going episode 10, 11, 12, whatever.
Or Disney could just drop him.
No. No, they're not going to drop JJ.
No, I'm talking about Rian Johnson trilogy.
No, they're not, because people love what he did, right?
Oh, okay. I thought you said the right. Well, look,
No. So the Rotten Tomatoes score is 93%, but the audience score is 56% because they're like trolls that built bots to give it audience scores. These aren't vetted actual critics.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I think it was a solid. Jason agrees with me. 7 was better than 8. It's like Windows. So, but again, I think we all have to get past Han and Luke and Leia. And if you love Star Wars, Kylo is right. You have to let the past die.
Yep.
You have to let them go.
Unfortunately.
And we cannot keep looking for, like, if you killed Luke, so you can't be looking for when will Luke return. You know what I mean?
Until the Reddit opens up where they're like, yo, Luke is clearly coming back as a Force Ghost.
No. I mean, yes, as a Force Ghost, but Force Ghosts just come to, like, tell you something when you need to hear it.
Right.
Or they'll come in an end sequence, but, like, they're not going to play these pivotal roles. Like, the third one is these guys being on their own, right? So, what is the first film? Okay, find who you are, meet your heroes, right?
Right.
You're on this journey. Now you meet your heroes all disappoint you. And now you have to figure out what to do in a world where you can no longer look to the old guard, where you actually have to forge your new path.
You have to do it yourself.
And that's what the third film, I think, will be about.
Right.
And so that will set these characters off. So I think this was a bold film.
Right.
I'm not mad at what Rian Johnson did with it. I'm not mad at the choices.
No.
Although and again, this may just be me as an old curmudgeon. I didn't like all the jokes. I thought after seeing Rogue One, this was going to be a much more serious film, and it was serious, and there were stakes. But you know, you didn't have to give me a joke every 5 seconds.
Definitely old curmudgeon.
Now, but folks, that is it.
Yeah, it's like
that's it. I gotta cut it off there. Thank you for watching. If you're still watching, and this was fun, and we will be back with our regular On the Real show where we discuss all of the Marvel Fox deal. Right. We're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of that thing.
That's it won't be
a show
4 hours
dedicated. It's gonna be 1 hour, but it's gonna be all dedicated to what's gonna happen with Marvel and Fox and X-Men and Avatar and Aliens and Predator and Die Hard,
yes,
and The Simpsons, all of that. So we will be talking about that, and we will be casting our own. It's like fantasy sports, right? We're going to be casting the MCU's version of the X-Men.
Is that going to be our segment of What Would You Do?
That's going to be our What Would You Do segment.
Okay.
So I am your host, Steve Johnson, and you can find me as usual on your favorite social media network, as long as it's not Snapchat, at Steve A.M. Johnson. Mr. Woods, tell them where they can find you.
Why Woods, Why Not? Across the board on any social media, except for Facebook. Or whywoodswhynot.com. Yes.
Okay. And also, if you haven't done so already, please take a moment to like and subscribe and do all those things, because it helps us out a lot. And go over to our YouTube channel. We post these videos there as well.
Yes.
We're trying to get those subscriber numbers up over there.
And, so we can have our own URL.
Right.
That's the purpose of it.
So join the conversation, and that was it.
Thank you, everyone.
So we are out of here.
Nothing more to say.